part of ultrarunning. As we seek the buckles, the finish lines, and the crazy distances, we experience a lot of failure along the way too. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Michelle, and we're both ultra runners and ultra running coaches who want to know more about the dreaded DNF, how, when, and why they happen, but more importantly, how we learn, we move forward, and we get back up to run again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Run That Again. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm Heidi Baker.
I'm Michelle Goldberg.
And we are here to talk about ultra running and the DNFs and the hard races and how we deal with them, learn from them, and grow from them. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you're not already so you never miss an episode. And we always appreciate it if you can leave a review and share with your family and friends. That is the way to spread the word and share these messages with them. So today we are welcoming a special guest. He is actually my brother, Andrew Gaub. Andrew is an ultra runner. He is a rare bookseller. He's a husband and a father. And like I said, he is my brother. And no, ultra running does not necessarily run in our family. He's completed a few ultras now, including the Yeti 100, and we are excited to have him on today. So Andrew, we always kind of just start, if you can give us a little background on yourself and how you discovered running and specifically ultra running, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you both, Heidi and Michelle, for having me on. I'm excited to talk about, my DNFs and what I've learned along the way and everything. But to give you a little bit of background. So I came to running in November of 2017 when I decided to quit drinking. And I realized that I had a lot of extra time on my hands. And since I'd been living a pretty unhealthy lifestyle, I wanted to do something to help me lose some weight and just be healthier for myself and for my family. So my initial goal was to be able to run, say, 3 miles 3 times a week. A very simple goal. And I signed up for a 5K, made a trip with the family, and I never ran that 5K. So I sort of, while I was working towards the goal, I never had a goal race. And then Heidi actually purchased me for my birthday that I think in 2018 a 10K, an entry into a 10K, and I was freaking out because I thought, oh my gosh, I've never even run. I've never run over 5 miles. How am I going to be able to do this? And sure enough, I ran the 10K and thought, well, here I am. I'm alive, and there's this really great run in Philadelphia, so I decided to run Broad Street. And after I ran Broad Street, the 10 miler one year, I thought, well, a half marathon's only 3 more miles. So I ended up signing up for a half marathon. Did you come run that half marathon with me, Heidi?
It was the Philly rock and roll. Yep.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yep.
Yeah. So Heidi came up and we ran that half marathon together. And then after the half, I think, which was 2019, I thought, who's ever really been really proud of doing half of something? So let's go for the full marathon, which I signed up for in 2020, and it was canceled due to COVID because it was going to be a spring marathon, but it was pushed to the fall. And so I had been training for it in the winter, slowed down a little bit, picked back up, and I ran my first marathon in October of 2020. And then after that, I thought, well, my knees don't really feel great running on roads all the time. So I'm going to switch to trails. And I've just started running in the Wissahickon instead, a local park with 30, 40 miles of trails that we have access to here in the Philadelphia area. And it was there that I encountered a trail running group, Chasing Trail, on a Yeah.
know
So
that.
Michelle's
Yeah.
actually,
You know
she's
Jesse?
pretty local
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. Well, Jesse was one of my crew and pacers at the Yeti 100.
Get
Yeah.
out. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I actually came and I paced Jesse for his last Jersey Devil 100.
Oh my God. You know what? This is crazy. So I ran Yeti 100
The same
last,
year
yeah, the
as you,
same
Andrew.
year,
She was there
last September
running.
also. And I
Yep.
saw Jesse and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm here pacing a friend of mine." And I saw him like at the midpoint, but then again, going up to what, White Top?
Yep.
Is that
White Top
where the
66.
flagpole is?
Yep.
I was headed up as you guys were coming down, and we passed each other, and Jesse was like, "Philly, Michelle, what's
That's
up?"
right.
And
I
so
do remember that.
that was me.
Oh my gosh. I was I was actually just beginning to enter my dark place
Yeah.
as we were coming down from White Top. So
Yep.
I have some vague recollection of that. But one of the truly great memories of that is Jesse running down from White Top, holding a slice of
The
DiGiorno for
pizza.
himself and a slice of DiGiorno for me, should I want another, as we were running down. So, oh, that's great. How
That is
fortuitous.
amazing. What a funny, funny world.
Yeah. So, but it was some time before I actually ended up deciding to run a 100 miler.
Yeah.
I decided to run the Blues Cruise in 2021 as sort of a gateway 50K. And that race went all right. I wasn't too. I was pleased I finished. I wasn't very pleased with my time, but I had some injuries that slowed down my training. I ran the same race again the following year because I signed up for the Mountain Masochist. I decided to do a 50 miler after the 50K. So I ran the Blues Cruise again and I knocked 90 minutes off my time. I was in much better shape from
That's
the year
amazing.
before. And then I ran the Mountain Masochist. And after running that, I thought, man, I really I want to see if a 100 miler is in me. And so at that point, that is at the end of 2022 that I finished the Mountain Masochist, just under 12 hours, under their original cutoff time, which was my goal. And so I was pleased with that. And I learned about running through a fair bit of pain and actually getting hurt along the way, and still just powering through to the finish. I took a little bit of time off, and then I ran the York Marathon again, just to get a sub 4 hour marathon under my belt. I really wanted that number, and then I set up and signed up for the Yeti that year. That was it September or October? It was late September.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
September. And my goal there was sub 24 hours, and I came in just under 23:50, and
That's
was really,
amazing. So
really
cool.
pleased with that. Yeah. So after that, I thought, man, I've done a lot of races. I've done the Mountain Masochist, and I've done the Yeti, and it was in Virginia. So I wanted to get to know Pennsylvania a little bit more. So I did Heiner in April. I ran the Heiner 50K in April. And then I did World's End on the 1st of June this year, and that was my first DNF. So
Gotcha.
that's how I came to running, was basically trying to get healthy and thinking, let's just see how far we can take this within reason. And I still feel like it's within reason. If you ask my spouse about it, I'm not sure she would feel the same. But that said, it's been a really humbling and exciting journey.
That's so awesome.
So tell us about World's End for people who don't kind of know what that race is like.
So, World's End is an absolutely beautiful 100K up in the wilds of Pennsylvania. it sort of follows the tributaries of the Susquehanna, and there are all sorts of plateaus and valleys that you run. It starts and ends in World's End State Park, and you go out and you do various loops, and it has about 13,000 feet of elevation gain over 60. I think it's 64 miles is what it is
That's
at
a
the end.
lot.
It's a tough course. It's known to
Yeah,
be a tough course. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
It was pretty tough. I put in a lot of work for it. I had run Heiner earlier that year, and Heiner also is up in the wilds.
Yeah.
It has about 7,000 feet in over 50K, and a couple of water crossings. So I had run in wet socks, wet shoes, and Heiner, so everything was going fine. At World's End, it has Heiner has 5 major climbs. World's End has many more, say 800 to 1,500 foot climbs, and you don't really get a break. When the course feels like it's about to get runnable, it's all rocks again. The plateaus this year, the weather was quite nice, but we had a lot of rain in May, and the plateaus were all bog and thick mud, and it was quite difficult to run through. I found that by the time I was in the 40s, I had some pretty bad blisters, and I had at that point already changed my shoes twice and was out of shoes, and so I was just going through with what I had. So I never even got to see what's supposed to be the worst part of it. Is at the very end of the race is a 1,000-foot descent over 1 mile over rocks down to the
Wow.
finish line. So I never got to see it. I missed the final cutoff at I believe it's Fern Rock. I missed the final cutoff at Fern Rock by 5 minutes. That's mile
So
mile
close.
59, and I came in at 11:05. And 11 p.m. was the cutoff. Had I made it, I would have had an hour to make it to the finish line. So I'd come pretty far, but
Yeah.
my feet were screaming, and um, and I made I made a couple of, since I've told you a little bit about the race. I'll say that one thing that I know I did was I screwed up my nutrition somewhere in the 20s. I didn't refill my water the way I should have. I didn't have any fresh water with me, and the tailwind that I had with me, I didn't really want to drink. So I came to this point
Yeah.
where I thought, man, I just got to keep pushing through, and so I can get to more water. But I didn't really drink a lot for a solid 10 miles before
It's a long time.
I
Which
came
is
in.
which is a long time on a course like that. Did you have crew, and
I
like
did.
what was your plan going into it? Like,
So, I felt pretty good going into it. Initially, my plan was try to make it down the final climb while it's still light out. Can I bring it in by 9 p.m., which was that would have been 16 hours, and I had done Heiner in under 8, and so I was feeling pretty confident that I could do it. Um, because of the poor nutrition planning and the poor decision I made. It's a really thin field. It's around 180 people running the 100K, so it spreads out quickly. And there was a section. Where I hadn't seen anybody in a long time. I got lost twice, and I didn't lose too much time, maybe 10 minutes total, but I also fell twice, and it was just one of those, it was one of those demoralizing moments. It was the first time in a race where I really went, man, I am glad nobody is around right now to ask me if I want to quit, because I might say yes. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen anybody. I had gotten turned around. I had fallen, and I was, losing. I just wasn't consuming the calories I needed. So when I came into what a lot of people consider the turning point of the race, around mile 35 at High Knob. It was the first time my wife Lisa had seen me at a race and looked at me and went, I'm not sure he's going to do this one. I'm not sure he's going to finish it." Um, and I have to say that I let some doubts creep in my mind as well at that point, even though I was still well ahead of the cutoffs. But the blisters were getting bad, and digging out of that nutrition hole was quite difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. And I think then when you get into that low calorie, like that nutrition deficit, I think, I know for me, I think for most people, it contributes to that low mood. And like, it kind of, it sets you up for more negativity, I think sometimes, that
Absolutely.
like, yeah.
Did you
So
know when you were going into that aid station where you got cut for time, did you know you were like behind on time there, or did you not really have a concept of time and you were just kind of
I
like,
knew that I knew that I was going to miss it. I was hopeful that I was going to make it, because I came out. There was a water only aid station, and then everything, the ground opened up, and I was able to run. And I was probably doing 11, 12-minute miles with my brother-in-law from Indiana. Tim was pacing me at that point, and we were cruising along. And then probably for 3/4 of a mile to the aid station, it turned into a rock field again, and just trying to get over those rocks in
when
the
you've already
dark
got
with
blisters
with the
and
blisters,
yeah,
and I could feel them like sliding and splitting open, and it just I knew that I couldn't push the pace that I needed to over those rocks at that point.
yeah.
So
yeah. It
So
sounds like,
were they
go
pretty
ahead.
strict on the time where they said
yeah,
you can't go on? Because
yes,
I know some races will be like, it's all right, just keep going. It's like it just depends who's there and what race it is, but they were pretty strict about it. Because
they were
five
strict.
minutes is close.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they were pretty strict on it. And the moment I came in, they took my bib from me.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
For whatever it's worth, I know a lot of people that have missed cutoffs at World's End and that DNF'd because they missed a cutoff. Like, and I don't know, I haven't run it, so I don't know that, it sounds like the cutoffs, obviously cutoffs are there for a reason, usually for safety and to sometimes logistics, but usually just for safety. Um, but I think it's just a really tough race.
Yeah.
that's right.
And there's so many variables that can, come into play. It sounds like you kind of had a cluster of different things that came together on top of, like you said, maybe that poor, the nutrition and just falling behind. It's really hard to dig out when you get behind.
Would you
Yeah,
have kept would you have kept going had they said you could keep going, or
I wonder that too.
did you know that you were just done?
I think I knew I was done. Um, I wasn't sure if I had. I think I would have had to average 12-minute miles, including that last mile descent down, the
In the
800,
rocks.
or the rock descent. And I'm not sure I could have done it or safely done it in the dark at that point.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I might have tried, had they said I could. But yeah, it was, I made peace with it, because I know that accomplish it's most people, when you tell them that you only ran 59 miles and only climbed 12,000 feet, will look at you and think that that's absolutely
And
nuts.
say, dude, that's huge. What are you
Right,
talking about?
right,
Yeah.
right. But to be so close, and to not have gotten that buckle, after about a week, I was my feet were healing, and I was doing some longer bike rides. And for the week after that, I said, "I'm okay." And that race was so rough. I don't know if I want to try that again. But 8 days later, I said to Lisa, I said, if I can sign up quick enough, I'm going back next year. I think I know what to do.
Yeah.
And so I do intend to go back and have my revenge on World's End. And I was encouraged by the fact that so many people that I talked to early on in the race, I mean, you're in some clusters for maybe the first 12, 15 miles. And so many people that I had talked to had run that race multiple times, but the vast majority of them said, I DNF'd the first time I ran it, and I had to come back.
I know a bunch that have DNF'd World's End and then gone back and been successful the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
When does registration open?
It's 6 p.m. on December 2nd, I think. Whatever the date is, I've got it
in your
sells
calendar?
out. Yeah, it sells out in a matter of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I hope to get there.
That's
so
like Kettle Moraine sells out too. I'm going to be waiting on January 1st to go back to that 100K maybe next year.
Yeah, because that was the weekend after.
I think
it was the weekend after. It was because you had just DNF'd that weekend, then I DNF'd almost at the exact same mileage point in the race at Kettle Moraine a week later.
Is Kettle Moraine, is that in mid-December, or I feel like Kettle Moraine was one of the ones where like I stayed up on New Year's Eve till
it's January 1st.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
and it's mountain time, right?
Like,
So
and it's like at midnight. This year I signed up for No Business and Kettle Moraine both on January 1st because that's when registration opened and dropped like $600 some dollars.
I only stay up
for both
past I only stay up past midnight on New Year's Eve to register for races.
Right.
To be like, I gotta get on.
Oh wow, that's great.
Andrew, in that like process as it happened, I'm sure like, in the moment you're probably kind of crushed, and you said maybe it took about a week. Like at what point do you feel like you were able to, it sounds like you've done a little introspection and deep diving on like lessons learned. At what point do you think you were able to start to break that down and look at it a little more logically? Like, what did I do well? What could I do better?
Yeah, I mean, it took me, like I said, about a week to sort of settle into. I know what I would need to work on for the next time. I had done I had done a bit of vertical training for Heiner. I had gone up and I spent some time up on the AT, and I'd done Leg Destroyer, and I'd been going up to Trexler, and I'd just been going around and making sure that I got a lot of climbs in. I travel a lot for work, and unfortunately, like my last 2 weeks, I was in May leading up to World's End. I was in London, and if there's one thing that it's really hard to find in London, it is vertical climbs. So I didn't get in nearly as much as I would have liked to leading up to that race. Something that I know I'll fix. Just working on my general nutrition strategy and taping my feet and running with wet socks and shoes, I know is going to be a big part of what I do this winter and this spring. But at the same time, I mean, I'm quite comfortable with the effort that I put into the race. I mean, because every day I get to remember that the person I was 7 years ago couldn't fathom the things that the person I'm doing, that I am today, is doing. And for a long time for me, it was really difficult to quit drinking and change my lifestyle. And
Yep.
so every day that I continue living soberly is a day that I'm doing something that I said was impossible. So it makes it easier to go out and think I can go try something else impossible.
I love that. I think that's so powerful. Like being able to reflect on that and keep that perspective, like even on a daily basis. Because yeah, there was some point where running 3 miles, like you said, is ridiculous to all of us. And I think a lot of people forget that perspective sometimes. We get used to talking to other ultra runners and talking about ultra running all the time, and like we forget that, whoa, like doing 59 miles on the World's End course is no joke. That's significant. That's really badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I agree. It's really, and that's what's so nice about, I think, the Philly community too, is meeting everyone that I've met in chasing trail and people that I run into just when I have another good friend, Kate Oliver, who's been sort of all over the place. Yeah,
Way.
yeah, like right, yep.
I'm
And
gonna text her as soon as we are done. This is nuts.
yeah,
Wait, do
yeah.
you run at Trexler with Kate?
I've never been up there with her, but
Okay.
she and I have had plans to run together, and they haven't worked out. But every time that we don't plan to meet up, we somehow run into each other and then share some miles together.
That is
So
hysterical. She and I ran together last week, and we were thinking of going to Trexler, but I had a race. I had a race just this past weekend, so
right.
I decided to just do chill, easy miles. So we ran local down around Pennypack.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah.
this is so funny.
But I mean, what an amazing supportive community, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the Philly
100%.
community, everybody that I've met here has just been fantastic. I mean, I probably wouldn't have known about the Yeti had it not been for Jesse and him telling me about how that was his first 100 and how wonderful it was. So and I agree. I mean, it was great. I love the ethos, and I decided to run that race because that was the race where I thought, okay, I'll prove to my spouse that I can keep moving on my feet for 100 miles for 24 hours before I start adding some vertical. So
And I mean, I think in the ultra running community, there's so many people who have this like a very similar journey as you, like through sobriety to
Yep.
ultra running.
yeah,
And so there's just that like connection and support like in the community. But I think Lisa's my sister-in-law, Andrew's wife. She has really done a phenomenal job of going, like, she probably didn't see this coming 7 years ago either, that she would be like a crew chief extraordinaire.
yeah,
But
she really locked it down for the Yeti. It was
yeah,
incredible. I mean, the same thing at World's End. It was not my crew. It wasn't my pacers, right? I mean, they were all there. Everyone was doing everything that they could, and she really has been phenomenal. And I mean, that was one of the nicest parts too when I think back on the Yeti, because that's where I had sort of the mashup of the Philly friend runner and my
Yeah.
family and brothers-in-law and my siblings all meeting together and really pushing me across that finish line, which was fantastic. I mean, and it was such a rich weekend for everybody.
it
Everyone had
was.
such a wonderful time. It was really quite beautiful and a lifetime memory.
That's
Yeah.
so amazing. Yeah, there's really nothing else quite like that when you're able to get so raw and so vulnerable and do something so hard and just have all that love and support, and like everybody just I think that's so unique in ultra running is everybody wants everybody else to succeed.
Yeah,
And it spreads to the crew and to the pacers and the family. Like it's kind of it's just such it's not even just an activity, it's like such an inviting experience,
Yeah.
yeah,
to go through that. Um, and it's interesting, you of course you can do an ultra on your own. You can do it without crew. You can do it without pacers. It's not necessary. But man, in some of these races, it really makes such a difference.
oh yeah,
And it's like important to be able to allow for that and like accept help and allow people to do things for you.
yeah.
But that's not always easy.
Yeah, and maybe that maybe that's why, or maybe that, to a certain extent, that's why some people who get sober end up running ultras is because the moment you realize that help really isn't a dirty word, you're willing to accept it along the way.
Yeah.
Never really thought about that aspect of it, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you at like mile 90 something of Yeti, and it was, you couldn't stop. Like you came into the aid station where the crew was, and you just said, I'm not stopping. But we still had to like get everything changed out for you. So we were running after you, grabbing your empty flasks, putting like new ones in, because you were like, I can't stop. I can't stop. I have to keep going.
Well, and I really couldn't. It was the first time in my life that I'd ever experienced the only way I can describe it is like still sickness. The moment I stopped moving, I started feeling ill. I started feeling queasy, and like I was going to throw up. But if I just kept going, if I kept my feet moving, I felt fine.
Yeah.
Well, fine. Let's
Right.
throw that in air
Air
quotes.
quotes. Yeah.
No, I know I remember that at mile 92 because at that
Yeah, I was
point
gonna
my
say it was
brother was
90 something.
pacing me, and he told me as we were coming in, he said everyone's going to be there. And I think I let loose a string of curse words because I told him, at that point, I was like, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want,
Yeah.
I don't want to see anybody because I know the moment I see everybody, I'm going to break down. Right. I mean, it was like
And
a
fall
feeling
apart. Right.
exactly. And I thought I was going to see everybody at the end, not here, but at the same time, it was, exactly what I needed too. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
that was sort of the old mindset of I don't want that support. I got to
Right.
do
I'm
I got to
fine. I'm fine. Let
Yeah.
me
oh
go.
yeah
Yeah.
exactly. But no, I remember Heidi telling me right before I was walking out of there at 92. These next 8 miles are the miles you're here for. Just keep going. The first
Oh,
92 the first
I'm
92
shocked
those
you
were the
remember that.
those
good
are
advice.
that's right those you said those were the easy miles.
I said,
Yep, that's what you're here
this is what
for.
you came for.
That
Yep.
golden stretch.
Hmm.
And isn't it funny how some, I mean, like your your 80, 90 mile brain, like cannot be trusted. We have no idea what we really need. And it's just nice when the world comes together and your support comes together and they're able to sort of either be there or put the thing there that you really need. And yeah, and you allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's it's also an interesting point though, like there is something to that, keeping your momentum going. I think a lot of times, when we're feeling really low and you're feeling run down, you have to find a way to still get what you need, whether it's a gear change or get the calories or get whatever it is. But sometimes it does feel really like, when you stop and then all of a sudden you start to sweat profusely or you get really cold or what, like,
And it was cold then at night there.
yeah,
It got
it
really
it got
cold.
very chilly. It really did. Um, but that's kind of something maybe for people to keep in mind is find a way to get what you need and take care of yourself. But yeah, keep your momentum going,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were,
especially at that point.
yeah, I mean, everyone's got different styles, but I remember
Yeah.
when I was running World's End, I was sort of playing leapfrog with a guy running it in his pacer. About every 3 or 4 miles, he'd pass me, then I would pass him, and at a certain point, I passed him, and when I last passed him, he was sitting down on the trail, and that was just something that always I never wanted to do, because I thought if I come into an aid station, I've got to change my shoes. I'll sit down there. But if I'm out on the course, I gotta keep moving. I mean, I even listened to an interview with somebody today who talked about taking a dirt nap on during a big 100-miler that he had 40 hours on. A hellbender. It was the hellbender 100.
Oh, yeah,
And just listening to him talk about that, it made me think, yeah, okay, maybe sometimes be a little more gracious with yourself, but also know yourself. And I
yeah.
knew at that point at the race, if I sat down on the course, that would be it. I wouldn't get back up. And so I said to my
Yeah.
pacer, don't let me stop. Don't whatever I do, it has to be perpetual forward motion if we're gonna pull this off. But it's what can I say? It's an extremely personal experience. The results of which are available publicly. Right. I mean, I guess that's sort of the hard part of the DNF, right? Because of at the end, you think about, oh, well, I'm not listed there. I don't have the physical object that shows I did it. But what you can come away with is everything that you felt along the way informs the next run. Right. I mean, it's
Yes.
it's really powerful, and it doesn't, it's just really always one step at a time. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's so true. Everything you come away with informs the next one, and that's kind of the whole name of the pod. Like, let's run that again. Let's take this, and you finish or you learn. Like you grow and find different things that are going to help you move forward and get get it done again or move in a different direction. Because sometimes we learn that that race just wasn't for me, but to move on and keep forward progress.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and everything that what I worked for this year was Heiner and World's End, and I did not know what was going to come next. I had no race on the calendar, but I had a friend from Los Angeles reach out to me and said, "Hey, we should enter the New York Marathon. I've always wanted to run it," and so I entered the lottery, and I ended up being one of the 2% of the people who got in by the lottery.
Amazing.
So I'm running that in November. I've never really had to do this much speed work in this much humidity, so that's been pretty brutal. But my friend Brad was able to get in with a fundraising crew, and
Nice.
so I'll be running a marathon in November. And that's the next one on the agenda. And then I think maybe I'll do the Naked Nick in December right after, just out in Reading again.
Yes.
So,
The same around Blue Marsh Lake, same as
that's right.
the Blues
Yeah.
Cruise.
Basically, Blues Cruise Winter Edition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loads of fun. New York Marathon, I don't have much marathon experience, but I have done New York, and I have, like, it's a blast.
Yeah.
It is so awesome.
I can't
That's
wait.
really, really cool. You're gonna love it.
Excellent. Yeah.
And they're gonna tell you to get on a shuttle bus at some ungodly hour in the morning. Do it. Take the early bus to get to the start. It's worth it to be there early.
Okay.
That's my tip.
Yeah. That's excellent to know.
Yeah, this is going to be a real change of pace for you. Road, marathon, and a world major that's like going to be a ton of people, like totally different vibe than World's End and being by yourself for miles and miles. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I
But you know
know.
what? You will not feel alone. Oh
Yeah,
no, that's what,
just,
sorry, Heidi, that's what you
I'm
meant,
sorry.
right?
Yeah, I'm like, no, he's not going to be alone.
You
yeah,
will
And
not.
I'm still kind of in disbelief that you got in because I enter that lottery every single year
yeah,
and
yeah.
never get
And
Yeah, that
drawn.
is,
and I
the
had
odds are really slim.
yeah, I
That's
had
so
never entered the
crazy.
lottery before. I really lucked out.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna make the
you
most of
got to
it.
take that opportunity.
Yeah, make the most of it, and maybe it's a good omen that I'm running with my friend Brad because the only time I've ever run a race overseas was when we were in London together in September of 2022, and we on a whim signed up for a half marathon together, and I PR'd the half marathon with him. So
There you go.
I'm
Nice.
sort of hoping that he brings that same luck to New York.
Do
That's
you
really
have
awesome.
do you have a goal set besides just PRing or
I would like to. I would really like to crack the 330s. If I can come in at like 339, I'll be really happy.
I
that's
So
believe you can. I think it's doable on that course.
you're somebody who like so like for the first 100 most people's goal is just to finish the race like and just survive. And so you're somebody who sets pretty lofty goals for yourself even in these first experiences because you went sub 24 your first 100, which is pretty crazy.
yeah, that's well, what can I say? It's I have a knack for biting off more than I can chew, but also at the same time, it comes with what I said about doing the impossible. Because whenever we
Yeah.
set out to do these things, whatever the number we pick or the time we pick or what the goal is, I mean, I don't want anybody to tell me I can do it because I don't know if I can do it. Right? I mean, like, I appreciate the support, but the reason I'm out there trying is because I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Right? I'm not sure, and that's I make my living uh, in the field of rare books and buy and sell books. And I often say when people ask about what it takes to be a good rare book dealer, I say you can do a whole hell of a lot with curiosity and determination, and that's really applicable to the field of ultra running as well,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I really want to know if I can do this, and I sure as hell am determined to give it my all and see if I can.
Yeah.
that's
That's
fantastic. I love it.
I've
And
never
being,
I've never thought of the relationship between rare book selling and ultra running, but probably because I don't know much aside from what you tell me about rare book selling.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and I mean, I guess any kind of small business is just an endurance event in its own right, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about one of the biggest lessons learned from World's End was related to nutrition.
yeah.
And it sounds like nutrition and hydration and just fueling yourself for an endurance event. Running a marathon at a, you know, potentially BQ pace, like that's an endurance event. So what changes will you be implementing now, like to prepare for that?
So, I listened to an interview with the this year's 100 World's End 100K winner, which was in its own right a fantastic interview. But what he said he did was he was taking a goo every 20 minutes, and I thought,
Yes.
wow, that's incredible. I can't even fathom that because I'm not even I was probably doing 45 minutes. Uh, but what I've been doing since I listened to that was training my stomach for 30 minutes. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm working on now. And I've been very fortunate to have a strong stomach. I switch up between the goose. Sometimes I use Martin's. Applesauce is always okay with my stomach. It was, I mean, I shouldn't say that. It was the last thing to go during the Yeti. And like at like mile 96, I had my last applesauce and went, no more. This is
Never again.
no, I'm
You
taking
swore
nothing
off
else to the
applesauce
end.
after that race.
Yeah.
You were like, I never want applesauce again.
So, so I'm working on a 30-minute, sort of every 30 minutes, taking in 100 calories. And I'm going to be, when I'm doing some of my long runs, I'm going to be adding a little bit of tailwind in there because I know, I mean, the first time I ran a marathon, I really did crash hard at around mile 22. And the last time I ran the marathon, that same marathon, I knew what I had done before, and I just didn't let myself ever get into that deficit. And so I know that, and I think I ran that marathon I ran that one in 3:50. And so I know that I can do what I need to in terms of caloric intake for for that under 4 hour window.
Right.
But now I'm trying to apply what I've heard the gent who won World's End say about his caloric intake, and I hope that helps. But that's what I'm working on now.
Does New York allow vests, or do you have to carry hand?
No, I won't. I'll probably carry. I'll carry a handheld, and that'll be it.
I couldn't remember if they did.
You could do a waist belt, like a spy belt.
Yeah, I have one of those too.
Yeah, I think I did that, and I had a clip-on bottle, like spy belt, or like a naked belt with a flask, something that you can tuck things into. But yeah, when I ran it, there were no vests, and they were very strict.
Yeah. No, I won't run that with a vest. And I can pinpoint the moment in World's End where I made the decision to not fill a flask. Because I thought, oh, it's not that, it's really not going to be that far to the next just water break. And and I now know that, and the decision making at that point was, you're making great time, keep going, you're doing fine. Don't take the time here to stop at this aid station when you can. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was so silly, and it was because I felt so good, right? I mean, I felt so good, like at mile 20 or whatever it was, and I was, I was on time for my pace to come in at 16 hours or so, but it was just making the decision not to dump out one flask, refill it with some fresh water, and just go on with that and my tailwind. That set the course for the DNF later that day, and so I really learned to just listen to myself, because I knew it in the back of my mind what I wanted, but I also told myself, no, just keep going, you're doing fine. And
you slipped back into that. I'm fine. This is fine. I'm good.
Yep.
Let me go.
Instead of just taking the extra minute that probably would have allowed me to be more alert and not get off track a couple times. And that's decision making domino effect in an ultra, and it can be really deleterious. For you can't think about how you're feeling 4 hours in. You have to think about how you're going to be feeling 14 hours in, and you have to give yourself what you need to be, to have strong legs and strong decision making 10 hours later. And it's really hard in the moment to think about that long game.
But what a lesson learned. Like, wow. I bet your aid station strategy from now forever will be a little different.
Yeah, it will. Yes, it will. It will indeed. And what's funny too is I ran Heiner with 2 flasks and a bladder, and
Yep.
I hardly used the bladder at all. So I decided not to carry the bladder with me at World's End. And had I just carried the bladder, I wouldn't have ever have been in the situation that I found myself in. So I don't know whether or not I want to carry that, that extra 2 pounds, 3 pounds in the future.
Yeah.
But it's something else I'll think about. But what can I say? We're the lucky ones who get to, think about these things and piece them together and replan what we did, and then sort of, what can I say? I'm somebody who has an addictive personality. The moment I hit buy on Ultra Sign Up or whatever platform I'm on, I'm downloading spreadsheets, I'm planning things out, I'm thinking about it all again. I get that rush.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot to be said for that.
I had a kettle moraine. It was almost the exact situation. I've talked to Michelle about it, that had I had an extra flask of water in my pack, it might have, maybe the race would have still ended badly for me, but that might have made the difference in my mindset, because I
Yeah.
thought I was running out of water. I thought the aid station was closed down. Like, I thought, and I was going to be without water forever. So I stopped drinking. And so I get that. And now I've learned, just always have more, and every water I come to, just top off the flasks.
It's a don't think about pink elephant situation, right? I mean, the moment they say don't think about pink elephants, don't think about the fact that you're running out of water, and every step you're thinking, God, I just want water. Right? That's it. The moment you can't, that's all you want.
Yep.
Yeah, that's totally true. And it's also like learning that lesson, because I've been there too, where I think you have to you have to make the mistake, and maybe hopefully people listening to this will hear what we're saying and not put themselves through the experience of making the mistake of just it's worth the 3 minutes that it will take to refill your bottles, to get some food, to change your shirt. Like, if your shirt is damp and you're going into the night, oh my gosh, take 3 minutes and change your shirt, because it will save you potentially hours later from once you just let one thing go and neglect to just take care of something, a hot spot on your foot, whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, and that's true. I remember that very early on in the Yeti, because I came in and I was moving along at a good pace. I was probably 20 miles into the race, and I said, I said, I'm starting to feel a little bit of a blister on my big toe. And they said, do you want to do something about it? And I said, no, I want to keep going. And I don't know if it was you or Matt or Troy or somebody just goes, if you're starting to feel something,
it might have been
now,
Jesse. It might have been Jesse who said, I think it was Jesse I remember that moment, and he said, if you feel it now, stop now and take care of it.
Yep. And then I had to go, yes, that is the correct decision. But it was once again in that mindset of, I'm making great time. I can't
and
stop.
You were feeling great then.
Yep. I'm feeling great, and I'm making great time. I can't stop. And it would have really slowed me down. I mean, I still ended up with a blister there, but I
probably wasn't as bad.
It, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I postponed it by making that decision really early on and running more comfortably. But
so you stopped and took care of it.
Yeah, I stopped and took care of it. Yeah.
Yep. And it honestly, it probably saved a lot of pain later. Even though, you're not going to fix everything and make it all better, but you're going to make it a little better so you can endure a bit more. I say sometimes I'll tell people, if the question pops into your head of, well, should I get another snack? Do I need one more gel? Should, like, if you ever question anything about what you may need, pay attention to that.
Yep.
And like, don't push that away. Like, it's like having a little niggle. A little niggle of a thought.
If you're asking, should I? The answer is probably just yes. Just do it.
Yep. Yep.
I remember the last corporate job I had, total tangent. HR had in their rules about what you're supposed to wear to work, it was like if you're put on an outfit and you question, like, would this be appropriate at work? It's probably not.
Right.
So I think of it that way. If you question, like, would it be okay if I just whatever, or
Well, it's
kept going.
Listen to it.
It's those having just driven many miles across the Midwest and just back to the Philly region last night. See all those billboards where they say, "Am I okay to drive?" Well, if you have to ask,
probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I think that's simple reminders to keep in mind.
Yep.
When we start to lose our minds out on the trail.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and because the should I do this is basically your mind telling you should.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
Asking yourself, the question doesn't come from nowhere, right? I mean,
right.
That your body's telling you something, and that first thought's the best thought, and don't give yourself time to second guess it.
That is phenomenal advice.
Very good.
Without a doubt.
All right. Well, I think we will stop there today. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying yes to this. It was a lot of fun to kind of learn more about, your DNF and your mindset through that. And I think there's a lot of good little nuggets of advice that people can take away from this conversation here for sure.
Yeah,
So.
I totally agree. And just the mindset that it sounds like you've got a great mindset, and I am really excited for you going into New York. Even though it's a totally different like it's a marathon, it's a totally different kind of race, like you said, running at a solid pace. Like, that's still an endurance event. And that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll have you back on in a year when you finish World's End next year.
Yes.
I can't wait. Yeah. I'll wear the buckle.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll have fingers crossed for good lottery luck when it opens.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun to chat about this. And Michelle, I'm sure at some point I'll be running.
Oh my gosh,
Philly
most definitely. That is so cool.
Yeah, when I first said that we were starting this podcast with Michelle, Jesse saw the connection and was like, does she know that you have a brother that runs in Philly? Like
that. I didn't even put all that. I didn't put that part together. Like,
yeah, pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, that wraps up our show today. Thank you again, Andrew, for coming on. We really appreciate you guys listening and appreciate the support from the community.
Absolutely.
Just remember to leave us a review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next week. And just in the meantime, remember to stay curious and embrace the challenges.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. We appreciate your support so much. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to leave us a review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tag us on our Instagram at Let's Run That Again and give us a shout out when you listen. And as always, we welcome feedback from you and are open to ideas and guests for future episodes. Reach out on our Instagram or email us at letsrunthatagainpod@gmail.com.